Some mornings the coffee feels heavier than I am. I lift the mug, hold it close, and wonder if it will wake me or simply remind me how tired I've become. The steam rises softly, curling in the air, but inside I feel no lift. Just the weight of another day I'm not sure I'm ready to meet. The blinds are tilted, letting in a slice of pale light. It cuts across the table, but doesn't brighten the room. My phone lies face down beside the mug, quiet for now, though I can sense its hum waiting to pull me in. I already know what waits there. News that scrapes against my nerves, emails that want more than I can give, reminders of things I forgot yesterday. I sip. The taste is sharp, but it doesn't feel alive. Some mornings coffee isn't comfort, it's armor. It pushes me out the door, fuels me just enough to perform, but it doesn't nourish. It doesn't bring me home to myself, and yet, in my hands, this mug is steady. It doesn't demand anything. It doesn't ask me to scroll or rush or fix. It simply sits, warm against my skin, as if to say, I'll hold you if you let me. I think about how mornings have become a blur of motion. The alarm, the scroll, the rush. Sometimes I reach noon and realize I never truly arrived in my own day. I was present in body, but not in spirit. The mug on the table becomes a mirror of that truth. Coffee goes cold when we ignore it. And maybe that's what I've been doing to myself, letting parts of me grow cold while I hurry past. I glance at the blinds again. Light keeps slipping in, whether I notice or not. Time doesn't wait. It moves quietly forward, carrying me with it, awake or not. I take another sip, slower this time. The taste is still bitter, but now I notice the warmth against my tongue. I notice the curve of the ceramic, the way my fingers wrap around it. Something small shifts inside me. It's ordinary, no grand revelation, no thunderclap. Just the gentle thought that my morning is a mirror and how I choose to meet it matters. I set the mug down and let the silence stretch. For a moment, I resist the pull of my phone. I listen instead to the hum of the refrigerator, to the faint traffic outside, to my own steady breathing. The question rises again, softer now, but sharper too. What does my morning coffee really taste like? Life or just survival? This mug will cool. The light will move. The day will begin whether I am ready or not. But here, in this quiet moment, I have a choice: to rush or to arrive, to swallow survival or to sip presence. The mug warms my palms. The question lingers. And somewhere beneath the weight of the day ahead, a whisper stirs. What if these little moments aren't little at all? Some mornings, the coffee goes untouched. The mug sits there, steam fading, while my thumb reaches for the phone instead. I tell myself it's harmless, just a quick scroll before I start the day. But quick turns into 30 minutes, sometimes more. By the time I look up, the coffee is cold and my chest is tight with the feeling that I've already failed before the day even began. It's strange, isn't it? We wake up from sleep, a gift of rest, and immediately reach for weight. Headlines, messages, endless lists of what we didn't do yesterday and what we must do today. We trade silence for noise, curiosity for comparison. And then we wonder why we're exhausted before we've even tied our shoes. I see the contradiction so clearly. I want peace, but I begin with chaos. I want clarity, but I choose distraction. I want a gentle morning, but I rush into battle the moment my eyes open. The mug on the table tells the truth. It waits for me to arrive, while I run everywhere else but here. Sometimes I think of it as being late to my own life. The clock says morning, but my mind is already sprinting toward tasks, toward the anxious future. I don't even taste the coffee I poured for myself, and in that rush, I abandon not just the mug, I abandon myself. Maybe you know that feeling too, the guilt that creeps in when you realize you're performing life instead of living it. You want to be present with your children, your partner, even with yourself, but the noise in your head drowns out the moment, and still, you keep repeating the cycle because breaking it feels harder than continuing. I sometimes whisper, tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow arrives. and my hand still reaches for the screen. My mind still floods with shoulds. My mug still grows cold. That's the wound. Not just the tiredness, but the quiet shame of recognizing my own patterns and feeling stuck in them. But here is what I'm learning. It doesn't help to scold myself for it. It doesn't help to label it weakness or laziness. The truth is gentler. It's simply human. Our world is built to steal our attention, and our hearts are built to crave stillness. The tension between those two poles is the contradiction we carry every morning. The mug shows it plainly. It begins hot, inviting, full of possibility, and then ignored, it cools. I look at it and think, that's me. Parts of me going cold while I chase 100 little demands. Yet even in its silence, the mug waits. It doesn't shame me for neglecting it. It simply says, I'm still here when you are ready. There's something healing in naming this truth without judgment. To say out loud, yes, this is me. I want gentleness, but I choose rush. I long for presence, but I trade it for noise. I deserve warmth, but I let it slip away. Naming it doesn't fix it, but it opens a window, and sometimes that's all a morning needs. A little air, a little light, a little honesty. So I look again at the mug. I see what I've been avoiding. The habit of abandoning myself before the day even begins. The weight isn't just in the coffee. It's in the choices I keep making without noticing. And maybe the real question is not, why am I like this? But something more tender. What would it feel like to arrive in my own life before I rush off to save the world? The mug cools. The question lingers. And in that pause, I sense the next part of the journey waiting to be told. What happens when a small crack appears, and I can no longer ignore the cost? One morning, the crack finally appeared. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just a small accident, the kind that could have happened any day. I reached for the coffee while glancing at my phone, juggling emails and headlines, and the mug tipped. A dark spill spread across the table, seeping into papers I hadn't yet finished. I froze, staring at the mess, at the brown stain bleeding into the edges of my work. It wasn't the ruined notes that made me ache. It was the realization. This is what I've been doing to myself every morning, spilling my attention everywhere, leaving nothing steady for me to stand on. The mug sat half empty, its warmth fading. I looked at it and thought, how many mornings have I let slip through my fingers like this? How many times have I chosen noise over presence, hurry over breath? And then, from the next room, a small voice, a child's voice, drowsy and honest. Why don't you ever smile in the morning? The word struck harder than any spill could. I didn't answer right away. What could I say? That I was too tired? Too busy? Too caught in a loop of rushing through a life I hadn't even paused to feel? I wiped the table with shaky hands. For the first time in a long while, I noticed how heavy the air felt around me. The coffee was already cold. The mug, once inviting, now felt like a symbol of something I'd abandoned. Not just the drink, not just the morning, but myself. That was the moment I realized if I keep this up, I will disappear from my own life. Not all at once, but drop by drop. With each neglected sip, each distracted scroll, each smile withheld, I would slowly fade. People around me might see me moving, working, producing, but inside I'd be absent. And absence is its own kind of loss. We don't always lose ourselves in one grand mistake. More often it happens quietly, in the habits we let run unchecked, in the mornings we sleepwalk through, in the conversations we half hear, in the love we mean to give but postpone until tomorrow. That morning, looking at the spill on the table, I saw the cost of my choices. It wasn't about wasted coffee. It was about wasted presence, wasted life. The shame rose quickly. How could I keep doing this? But then another thought slipped in, gently. Maybe the spill is a signal. Maybe it's not punishment, but invitation. An invitation to notice what I've been ignoring. An invitation to ask, what if I arrived in my mornings instead of escaping them? What if the mug wasn't just fuel, but a ritual of presence? For the first time, I didn't rush to wipe everything perfectly clean. I let the stain sit for a moment. I stared at it like a mirror, messy, ordinary, undeniable. It showed me the truth I had avoided. Comfort isn't always safe. Staying in the cycle of rushing and numbing feels familiar, but it's costing something I can't replace: my life, here and now. The crack moment is rarely neat. It doesn't come wrapped in clarity or certainty. It comes in spilled coffee, in the blunt honesty of a child, in the sudden recognition that something precious is slipping away. That morning, I knew if I didn't change, I would keep abandoning myself. And the loss wouldn't just be mine. It would ripple out to those who love me, to those who see me, to those who wait for me to truly show up. I sat back in my chair, the mug cooling in my hand, and whispered a quiet vow: no more disappearing. The spill had spoken. The question now was whether I would listen. That line has followed me like a gentle echo. Pay attention, on purpose, right now, not later, not once everything is fixed, but here, in the middle of an ordinary morning with a mug in my hand and coffee stains on the table. Kabat-Zinn calls it mindfulness, but it feels simpler than the word sometimes suggests. It feels like arriving. It feels like choosing to be here instead of slipping away into the endless scroll of what's next. It feels like letting the little things matter, not because they are dramatic, but because they are life. For so long, I thought gentleness was a luxury. Something people with lighter schedules or calmer minds could afford. My mornings felt like battles to be fought and survived. But the wisdom of Kabat-Zinn flips the story. Gentleness is not a luxury, it's a medicine. It steadies the heart before the storm of the day. Think about the mug again. I used to see it as caffeine, a tool to push me through. Now I see it as an invitation to hold it with both hands, to breathe in the rising steam, to sip slowly enough to notice flavor. The mug becomes a teacher, a symbol that presence is possible, even here, and presence changes everything. When you are present, the same tasks feel lighter. The same routines carry meaning. Folding laundry is no longer drudgery, it is care. Walking to the train is not wasted time, it is space to breathe. Drinking coffee is not just fueling, it is arriving. This is where the paradox unfolds. I always thought rushing would help me get ahead, but the more I rushed, the further behind I felt. Kabat-Zinn's wisdom shows the opposite. Slowing down does not waste time, it redeems it. By paying attention, I actually gain back the moments that hurry steals. There's a reason people are flocking to your soft life videos, to digital detox challenges, to morning routine reels that promise a calmer start. Beneath the trends is a hunger we all share, the hunger to live our days instead of surviving them. We want to belong to our mornings, not just push through them. And maybe mindfulness sounds too lofty or abstract, but it isn't. It's as ordinary as the mug cooling in my hand. The choice is simple. Will I taste this sip, or will I let it slip away unnoticed? Will I be here for this breath, or will I race into 1,000 unfinished futures? I remember the morning after the spill. I sat with the mug again, both hands around it, and before taking a sip, I closed my eyes. 3 slow breaths. That was all, and yet something shifted. My chest loosened. The day felt less like a mountain and more like a path I could walk. The mug was the same, but I was different, because I arrived. This is what Kabat-Zinn teaches. Mindfulness is not escape. It is entry. It is the art of entering the life you already have, with awareness, with kindness, with purpose. It turns a morning from a blur into a beginning. And in that, I see hope. Because if a single mug can become a doorway, then change doesn't require moving mountains. It requires only one small choice, repeated with care. I glance again at the coffee in my hand. It is no longer just fuel. It is a mirror, a teacher, a medicine. And as I sip, I whisper to myself, gentleness is not something I wait for. It is something I practice right here, right now. Change doesn't begin with a grand overhaul. It begins with one small step you actually take. That's the lesson the coffee mug keeps pressing into my palms. The mornings I've lost weren't taken by some great catastrophe. They were lost to tiny choices repeated without noticing. So it makes sense that recovery must also come in small, deliberate acts. The first act is simple. Before I sip, I hold the mug with both hands and breathe. 3 slow breaths. Inhale, exhale, sip. At first it felt silly. Could breathing really matter when emails were piling up and the world was waiting? But something shifts when I do it. My shoulders lower. My chest softens. My eyes clear. For a brief moment, I remember that I am not just a machine to be fueled. I am a person to be cared for. That reminder sets the tone for everything that follows. The second act is more challenging. 10 phone-free minutes after waking. It sounds small, but in practice it feels like resisting gravity. My fingers itch for the screen. My mind invents reasons why I need to check right away, but when I resist, I discover something I didn't know I was craving: silence. In those minutes, I notice the light changing on the floorboards, the sound of water moving through pipes, the simple rhythm of waking up without noise. Those 10 minutes are not empty. They are full of life I used to scroll past. The third act is my anchor, writing one small intention on a sticky note. Not a list, not a plan, just one line of honesty. Some mornings I write, notice the good. Other days, breathe before answering. Once, it was only drink the coffee while it's hot. These notes don't fix everything, but they focus me. They whisper back throughout the day, reminding me of the gentleness I promised myself in the morning. And each time I keep that promise, I build trust with myself, a trust I've spent years unknowingly breaking. It might sound almost too ordinary, but that's the point. Presence hides inside the ordinary, waiting for us to notice. The mug, the breath, the pause, the note, they're not accessories to life, they are life. They are the little hinges that swing open the whole door of the day. And here's the truth I've learned. If I skip the first small step, the day repeats yesterday. The rush wins, the mug cools, and I find myself once again late to my own life. But if I choose even one of these acts, just one, the entire morning feels different. It's not that the world changes. The deadlines, the emails, the traffic, they all remain. What changes is me. I am steadier. I am present. I belong to myself before I belong to anyone else's demands. You might wonder if 3 breaths or 10 quiet minutes can really matter. But ask yourself, what is a life made of if not moments like these? Waiting for a grand transformation means waiting forever. Choosing one tiny ritual today means change has already begun. So tomorrow morning, when you pour your coffee, pause. Wrap both hands around the mug. Take 3 slow breaths. Let yourself arrive. Put the phone aside, even for 10 minutes. Write one small intention and place it where you will see it. These are not chores. They are gifts. Gifts you give to the future version of yourself who will thank you for starting with gentleness. Tiny rituals reclaim the day before it steals you. The mug cools more slowly when I drink this way. And even when it does cool, I no longer see it as failure. I see it as a reminder that presence is not about perfection, but about returning. Each breath, each pause, each intention is a way of coming back home to myself. I look down at the sticky note on the table, the ink still fresh, just one line, be here. And with that, I realize the gentlest mornings are not distant ideals. They are right here, in my hands, one sip at a time. The sticky note from yesterday still sits on the table, just 2 words written in quick ink, be here. I see it now as I pour hot water into the mug, the kettle hissing softly like a quiet prelude to the day. The coffee blooms dark and fragrant. Steam rises and I wrap both hands around the mug the way I've taught myself to do. 3 breaths. Inhale, exhale, sip. Simple, ordinary, nothing flashy, but the difference is unmistakable. My shoulders don't rise in tension the way they used to. My mind doesn't leap so quickly into the unfinished list of tasks. Instead, I feel grounded, anchored by a practice so small it once seemed meaningless. Now, it feels like a lifeline. I think of all the mornings I lost before, the scrolls that stole my attention, the guilt that whispered I was already behind, the mug that grew cold while I abandoned myself. Those mornings aren't erased, they're part of my story. But now I carry proof that a different path is possible. The phone is still there, the world is still loud, the rush will always beckon. But I've discovered that the gentleness I craved was never out there. It was always here, waiting in the ordinary, waiting in a mug, a breath, a note, a pause. And here is the diamond truth. The world may be the same, but I am different. That difference shows up in tiny ways. When I drink the coffee before it cools. When I pause long enough to notice light slipping through the blinds. When I greet someone with patience instead of hurry. Each act seems small, but together they weave a different rhythm to the day, one that is calmer, kinder, more alive. Will every morning be perfect? Of course not. Some days I'll still spill the coffee, still cave to the screen, still feel the tug of old habits. But even then, I remember presence is not perfection. Presence is practice, and practice means I can return again and again, as many times as it takes. So I look again at the mug in my hands. Warm, steady, simple. It no longer feels like armor against the day. It feels like a reminder that I belong to myself before I belong to anyone else. It feels like an anchor, holding me to the ground of now. The question rises again, will today be a beginning or a copy of yesterday? The mug doesn't answer. It doesn't need to. The answer lives in me, in the choices I make moment by moment. To rush or to arrive, to abandon or to stay, to let the coffee cool unnoticed or to taste it while it's warm. I take one last sip slower than before and smile at how simple it really is. Life is not waiting for me in some distant achievement. It is here in the steam, in the breath, in the ordinary ritual of morning. As the kettle quiets and the city hums awake, I carry the warmth of the mug with me, not just in my hands, but in my spirit. One sip at a time, one breath at a time, I step into the day, and I know this truth will hold. Beginnings are always possible, even here, even now.